Let's see.
Well, as we're sitting here on this beautiful afternoon, um,
Headphones.
headphones, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
What a feeling. Um, Thursday afternoon, June 15th, year 2023, here with the Alolo Show, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of this particular specific show, the Hello Show, that's been on the air since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and a huge group of followers such as yourselves into that concept of public access, enhancing, fortifying, as it is with my guest Jason, enhancing and fortifying. That comes naturally to you.
Enhancing and fortifying. That's a very, very interesting way to put it. Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's what we do here.
We need to guard it. That's why we need to fortify it.
We have to fortify it and guard it from threats both internal and external.
Yeah, from within and from without. Yeah, but you know, it's funny. Any precious thing, there's always fear that comes alongside it. Fear of losing it. Fear of it being taken away from you. That which is precious.
That's interesting.
So you're always on the alert, and you don't understand how come you cannot relax and enjoy it just like that.
I don't relax and enjoy much.
Maybe because you're very busy, technically speaking.
I don't know. I don't know if that's it might not be in my nature.
Well, I mean, there's only that much we can do, you know. And if we kind of pile it up, either something will happen to slow us down and to do the job for us, or we'll come to a realization that we better.
Maybe. I don't know. You can never tell what another person is feeling or how they feel it or what exactly any of it means. You can never truly know what that other person's feeling in the first place. So, like right now, there's a general sense of like unease. And the unease is coming from like, all right, got a lot on my plate today, got a lot to do. But I've felt that way even when there's nothing to do.
I knew that was coming. I knew you were going to say that. Maybe because in more ways than one, I'm like you, but I know the crashes will take place. I just have to come up with ways to soften those crashes and landings, because it's not. There's no room for me to think that it's going to go away. It's kind of an addiction that won't kill you, and you can kind of somehow find a way to live with it.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any other type of like for a while. I'd say during the height of the pandemic, I had a bit of a screen addiction that I'm still kind of like going away from. But the problem is that an aspect of my job is so much with screens and checking screens and doing that type of stuff. So that's a weird aspect of it. I often sense where do you feel anxiety in your body?
Where do I feel it?
If you had to give the anxiety a home or a place, because mine travels from point to point. Sometimes I feel it in my fingertips. Sometimes I feel it there. I often feel really good after I do something hard or strenuous physically, and then afterwards I feel more at ease. You know, I'm recuperating from a bit of an elbow thing right now. You know what I mean? But I'm overall getting stronger at that, so I'm pretty happy when it comes to that. Maybe that's where it's coming from.
With me, it's more like circling my body, so it's maybe 2-3 inches outside my body creating that.
So it's like a field for you?
Well, yeah, it's a field. It gives me the illusion as if it's not affecting me because it's not inside me. But I tasted its powers, so I don't mess with it.
No,
I pay attention when it shows me signs, whether it's there or here, wherever, whether it's around. Then I need to be cautious and respectful, and maybe kind of more. It helps me really attend to the things that I need to.
Yeah, that's painfully true.
Yeah,
that's painfully true. I mean, you have to embrace that aspect of it. I don't know people who don't have someone like that though. I think it might be it might be par for the course.
Maybe just the level of intensity changes.
It could be,
You know,
or sensitivity.
yeah,
Another aspect is that I think that if you, the more you're willing to feel, the harder life is, but the greater the joys are.
yeah. When you complete cycles,
When
but
you
you have
complete cycles, yeah, but there's the completing of the cycle. So what do
doesn't
you mean
have
by
to be
that?
many cycles,
So what
but
do you mean by the completing of the cycle?
meaning that your advanced is measured against going through doors, going through obstacles. It's not just like the distance itself.
Going through doors, going through obstacles.
It
Huh?
like documenting your journey for you. You know, it's not just about going through the journeys, but being able to go back and look and see the highlights. It's it's as important as achieving that the actual crossing the finish line. You know,
Mm.
but with as a painter, I tell you now, last week I decided I got to change. I got to change. I got to change. I mean, yeah, I didn't even wait for anything to tell me that I need to change. But I thought, why should I wait until I'm really tired of what I'm doing on the canvas? Because I know it's coming. So I kind of forced myself into a reality where I am telling you, I realize more and more there is a form of art which happens to be painting, brushes, surfaces, canvases that you can experience live. Huge amount of journeys being completed in an instant infraction with the surface. That means I knew so many things about making a painting that I tried to just gather them like a mob to see if I have all this company with me, what prevailing would mean, what kind of a painting is going to come out of this. And it was amazing because it takes you so advanced, yet it has to go through going back to square one in order to initiate it, to proceed, to carry on. You know what I mean? No matter what, you always have to find yourself that you must go back to square one and punch that buzzer and start. You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't know why the reason for it is. So what I'm learning from it is that maybe I can just go back to square one, like in the comfort of ta 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 ta, and um, I know the secrets are there. You know, I'm just gonna come with confidence and go there and know that it's gonna happen. Be patient, and while I'm doing that, I'll paint paintings and play drums or and write poems. You know, like this, like this, like you take your greatness into a level of being very casual. You're very confident with the gatherings of your capabilities that you can deliver. You have experience and all that, and then you have so much time not to also to delude your ego, to address that issue for real, you know, and just to achieve a little bit because the ego, it's fiction, you know. What exactly are you going to do in order to reduce your ego? What, to cut a part of your body? uh, so you just feeling like, okay, I'm just going to go for a scratch on the surface. That will be a huge reward.
So that's interesting. So like your take on it is that you get over it by telling yourself, I'm only going for the scratch on the surface. I'm only gonna start a little bit, just doing something. Like what do you do to scratch the surface?
Everything I know together, it's a lot. I realize that that scratch is immense, and we fail because we think that we need to achieve something that's also visual, that we can see something is done, but it
Do you,
could.
do you think that so do you think that perhaps not, I'm just throwing this out there, I'm spitballing it. What maybe we only scratch, but we scratch so many times.
We're going through all the layers.
Just a little bit by little bit. Maybe there's something to that. you only take off a little layer every time. You know?
Yeah.
I think sometimes maybe life hits you and it takes off a big layer whether you like it or not.
But think about it. If you have canvas and paint and brushes, you can do anything you want after you did everything you wanted. Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's not like a blank canvas where we're sitting in saying, oh, when am I going to start painting? It's so provoking. You put the paint, you put the brushes. Now you can actually make any decision that your heart's desires. You can do anything to the surface. Do you understand what level of freedom that is? You can do anything.
Yeah.
Nobody is to witness there. Nobody is to stop you, slow you down, rush you. And you can do anything. You can choose any tool. You can do any application. You can do it in any speed you choose. And you don't even need a rationale of why you would do it or not.
But you have
can you?
But you have a beauty there because you have the limitation of the canvas. You have a limitation of this is how big the canvas is. And so it kind of gives you that point of concentration, right? So it gives you a limitation, an inherent limitation, which is the size of the canvas. And that some people might say, oh, that's not whatever. That's not a big philosophical thing. I think it is. I think it really is. I think a frame is a very powerful thing. I think a frame is everything. I don't like, how like you know how they have those like 360 cameras?
Mm-hmm.
They've never really taken off.
Correct.
They've never really taken off, and they probably won't. Like people use them for capturing video and then putting it in this. It's because this creates something. This creates a very important thing. Do you know the idea behind the Japanese torii arches?
No.
So do you know the torii arch?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah. So it's the red arch, and then it has the things, and you find them everywhere, right? So you find them like there's one in the middle of the Japanese, in the middle of like Tokyo Bay. There will be ones, little tiny ones all around. And what it's about, well, this is what was told to me anyway, so I'm going to take it off of that. What it's about is Satori, which is a point of awakening. And in Buddhism, in Japanese and Buddhism, you have this idea of Satori, which is you're awake. You see it. It's right there. And what they did is that they built the torii arch around what that moment was for that person. And whether that's the exact translation of it or not, I find it still an interesting idea, which is that the frame creates the importance. The frame is what the limitation. Limitation is the importance.
It's actually the wanting to have a frame to begin with.
Yeah.
To accept that into your life, But first, you have to introduce somewhat of an established composition to the surface, with limitations or without, and then start gathering the relationship it has to the edges, whether it's a minus or a plus, an advantage or an obstacle,
Yeah.
But I tell you, when I did the canvases, I felt like I looked at certain points and I was so strong. I was an overachiever, So I looked at it and I said, no, I'm going to slow down because, it's your lucky day. I'm talking to the canvas. You're going to get, a little more of your fair share as far as nourishment.
Yeah.
I'm going to allow you to have that. So we're so strong that we're actually allowing the surface to proceed with its attitude, but that most likely we don't like it and we can do without, you know what I mean? But we allow it because then what? Then you're shooting yourself in the foot. Then
do you ever feel that the surface tells you what to paint?
It's always a part of the equation. Always. It politically advises you in its own way.
I always found that interesting with sculptors of marble. The idea when you'd get the stone and you'd have to look at the stone and study the stone and then listen to it and then find the thing inside of it. The discovery aspect.
One wrong gesture and it's
gone.
Broken to, what do you do then?
It's gone. I mean, there's great artists who, there's at least a few Michelangelos had like a leg fall off or something that they had to put back on. He had to rework or something else like that. There's at least a few.
Because he had a crew of 24 individuals that
he
would do it for him.
he did later on. There's a few nonetheless. Like he had to like find a few ways to hide it and some other stuff like that. I want to say it was one of his. It was, I think, Christ being taken down and like being comforted by Mary. There's a leg that's missing. Like there's like a leg or something that's missing. Um, what he tried to put back on or something along those lines. But it's
But
very interesting.
but you know what? A guy like him really needed to constantly control its potential. You
That's
know,
an interesting way to put it. So to control the potential of
yeah,
it.
because listen, he knows he can go there, and you know what? And the real great things happen when he's alone with himself. So what the fuck, you know? He's so he can afford to say, you know what? I see your point. I'm going to yield. I'm going
Hmm.
to keep quiet. But no mistake, because when you see the evolutionary process, you see that things happen all the time, and they can only happen if this individual is actually physically active. Do you understand? Even the little bit of it, but there's so many little bits that come together every day. Like I remember the early days of this show. I used to be at home 6:15 sometimes, and it's snowing, and I need to make it here before 7. And sometimes I'm just back and forth, torturing myself. And then I had to bring the image of Fraser Dougherty into my head and saying, remember that pathetic sentence he used to tell you over and over again? Well, come on, get with it.
What was the pathetic
It,
sentence?
like, you know what? It's one and the same. You serve the public, you put yourself aside, you want to look awkward or peculiar because you're with a camera everywhere, and you start shooting at the post office and wherever you go, like, who's this? No, it's going to end up here. It's going to end up on your show. You put it in, they see it. It doesn't matter what it is. So I couldn't accept it at face value. He was already embedded deeply into it. And I'm like, okay, until I warmed up to it. And so I'm there. And you know how many times we used to steal it from the server? You know, I used to have to
Yeah.
go to the server punch. It would be like 6:58. Ta, 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 pa, 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 pa. I'm standing, boom, 10
Yeah.
seconds up there. So that kind of a thing is creating the aura that otherwise you have to work on it so much every time all over again. So now I'm more kind of enjoying an aura that waits for me. I'm done with the session. I come back again. Somewhat of it will still be there.
Hmm.
I won't have to toil and to clear the earth all over again every time I engage.
That's a fascinating way to put it, man. That's a fascinating way to put it. Yeah. I don't know where to go from that, but I actually want to leave off on that conversation. I think that's a great place for me to
Yes,
make my
yes.
exit.
Yeah, listen, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Always.
Oh, it's a pleasure,
Always.
my friend.
See you around, bro.
Yeah, thank you. That's Jason with the, I don't know if to use the word provocative, but where is my coffee? Oh, yeah, it's right here. That's awesome, actually. Here we go. Wow. Yeah. So actually, I don't know. I'm there. Actually, I got used to the headphones. Usually, I'm not with headphones, so but I can hear myself so clearly. It's like freaky. Anyway, speaking of the surface that Jason and I picked up on, the the arena of creativity that defines the borderlines and the eventual shape that will accept your gestures of willingness and compassion to cope with that which is um, that which, which will set the tone and the create the perimeter and offer a guideline and above all that kind of find enough space to reflect, philosophically speaking, to reflect, saying that to allow yourself to get closer to being able to relate to the concept of the many levels that you know reside and exist and take place in the from the most sophisticated, serious scenario all the way through the simplicity of life's willing and dealings and functioning and surviving and existing and thinking and executing and taking action, thinking out loud, adding more wood to the fire, jumping into the cold lake, writing a poem. Yeah, writing a poem, writing an aphorism, writing a proverb, writing a storytelling poetry, writing a prose, impressionistic prose, and just being able um, to be mobilized with the most current uh, uh, achievements that for some reason you really have it available as a point of reference, which is crazy, incredible to be able to um, have it as a part of your luggage. And when I say luggage, I don't mean necessarily um, uh, traveling, uh, just kind of neighborhood maneuvers and movements. So the same scenario and the same composition is really the one that exists in my head, in our head. I guess it's just the kind of the language and the approach and the layout and the extension. It's all a loyal replica of what's really happening on the surface. So it's intriguing, reassuring, strengthening, appealing, and so much more. In the actual desire to understand what it's all about, and if you love it, like of course you do, you want to understand the nature of this love and where is it coming from, and kind of deciphering it for the sake of being able to observe its um, um, you know, chances of thriving. And that process of thriving is something that is just magnificent because it has something to do directly with the suggestion that once you create that the point of impact and you somewhat know the rules of the game, and you don't necessarily think that you like mastered the game, but you know enough to beware and not find yourself getting yourself in trouble, and kind of having that C plus B, sometimes B plus, something like that. I always loved when I was in high school. I mean, I wasn't the greatest student, but I did well, So it was always like almost B plus. There was actual grades like that in my boarding school. I had a lot of like almost great. Can you imagine? Really, I had uh, there's also one almost failing. um, and um, anyway, so being able to travel, but I don't mean travel abroad. I mean traveling, from one neighborhood to another, from one street to another, and carrying with you the composition that represents your step, just as you were kind of arriving here. Every step that you take, the ingredients that nurture the basic movement to bring you from that destination which you were coming from into my arms, into my vicinity, into my domain, into my zone of operation. And And you know, in the heart of hearts, you know that there's no joining forces here. There's no need for joining forces here. It's like the nature of the beast is that of which recommending individualism and independence, but not being on the antisocial end of it. Extremely social yet cautious, and extremely social yet calculative, which is, I mean, kind of a nice way of putting, trying to do your best not to mess things up, and that at least that you know if you're gonna record this music and paint this painting and write these poems for a poetry book, um, it's it's it doesn't come out of nowhere, you know. It takes some doing to, um, and then you realize more and more that actually the main thing you have to work on is to keep on having a system in place that will remind that we're doing just fine. You know, it's like a, a yielding whisper. You know, not even really whisper, just speaking uh, softly. But telling you the wonderful news about the achievements and about the progress and about the breakthroughs and about the will in place to engage, to want to be a part of this, of it, and on top of it also um, showing the ability to being able to relate to the alternative aspect of it all, meaning, looking for other ways of understanding, looking for shortcuts, looking for efficient way of traveling, looking for, considering your options. And within the artistic journey, especially if you operate on more than one creative mediums, and so overlapping and interacting and implementing, there's no greater joy than that in the world. But also, if you know me, and you know that in the past I mentioned more than once the relationship between art and between the energy that creating art creates and puts in place, and the benefits is just like, just imagine people contributing energy that will become available for people to grab when they need. This is like almost insanely incredible. And more, maybe in more ways than one, doesn't really exist. Really, it does. I mean, if it does exist, it's just so random. But I think it's getting better and better, because the good news is that people don't have to know that when they do. I mean, it's good for them to know. It's important for us to educate them and tell them, listen, if you do that, you will create that. When you create that, you'll be able to ABC 1 2 3. You'll be able to help. You'll be able to extend. You'll be able to contribute to your self growth. You'll have everything you need in order to just go from one step to another, and one stage to another, and enhance your knowledge, which is already enhanced and already extensive, and find um, a path that happens to just be unique. It's a path that's familiar to you because you're talking about this path, because you created this path, because you put this path in place. Because, and due to. So you quickly enough find yourself meddling and taking part in something that is actually extremely potent, strong, powerful. I remember my drum teacher, Kenwood Denard, taking lessons with him in the fall of 1984, Spanish Harlem, and he used to tell me slash ask me, "Did you feel the power?" And I'm like, "Of course." He said, "No, no, no. Listen to me. Did you feel the power?" And I said, yes. I said, how did you feel the power? What happened? I told them, well, my shirt was moving and I'm like 10 feet away from you. And from the vibration of the power of you playing on this acoustic drum set, my shirt was moving. So I said, well, also, um, I felt it in my chest going all the way up to my hearing channels. But the idea of introducing power, not because we need to do it for the sake of power or because we want to speak of power or strength, or but because we know that it's going to have to be with a tremendous amount of um, of energy, of endurance. That there is a duration. There's a duration. There's a minimum duration. So just basic things that if you kind of brush up on them and just get to know what is required and try to make it possible and available at its minimum, only so you would be granted a permission to enter. Just as long as you make sure you can enter that facility there, that zone there, because that's where it's happening. That's a whole conversation, separate conversation. And then you find yourself playing it safe, going for a 15 round of boxing, and and wanting to make sure that it will go the entire 15 rounds, and and let the judges speak their minds, speak their verdicts. No desire for knockouts at all. Um, maybe there is a capability, but no desire to do that. So in this specific composition placement that you periodically find yourself kind of um, adding a few more precious seconds to evaluate that which is extending beyond the visual, and understanding that your recollection is healthy and that it relates indeed to information that's already gathered and documented um, and titled and tagged, and this lovely, wonderful library, which happens to be somewhat of a artistic, technical, spiritual, emotional, religious uh, probabilities as a part of a gathering full of willingness and and pleasure to find yourself with people that you say, wow, wow, phew, wow. Uh, okay, so I'm wait, you know what? Oh, 1 second. And mm, Okay. So you realize that all the things that I just described right now is something that is being achieved due to someone's work and someone's thoughts and ideas and attempts to implement and to grow, and having the coherence and brightness to understand what's at hand, and above all, willingness to be a part of this process without the craziness of too much eagerness, even though of course you would want it with all your heart. But and then you free yourself from burdening yourself, uh, going through certain scenarios that you can do without, especially because you have to go through certain scenarios all the time to achieve those um, sub conclusions, and in the meanwhile conclusions and halfway conclusions and premature conclusions, and then you find yourself into saying, okay, well, it's been a long journey. What does that mean exactly? It means that there was a long journey where you were participating in, and without which the journey couldn't have taken place, because where would that leave you? So then you hope that eventually, when you when you find yourself going into your instrument, like last night, I opened another new canvas and I prepped it, and I told the canvas, now you just sit tight and sit back, and maybe you learn something and enjoy, of course. And 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 11 minutes later, and then just a composition, then you 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 continue the conversation, and you say, I can just let it go now. I can just let it be as is, and it's a viable painting, and it's good to go, and it will be just as pleasant to experience as much as it would be intolerable to experience by just as many people as would do that, and as many as wouldn't do that. At the end of the day, the equations will match, uh, 0 by 0, 1 by 1, and and you realize really that all these experience that you're going through and probably went through and probably will go very often in the future is direct result of your being adamant and repetitive, and keeping a straight face through the process. And the process would happen to be not an easy, light, simple, straightforward, more challenging, and challenging, and challenging and provoking, and so much more, something, and so much more. And you can really appreciate it. You can really realize that you're like taking part in a great moment that doesn't come often, at least not often enough. And if it does, most of the times it can come, nobody would even notice that it was here and gone. But it resides after a certain amount of time, and after completing a certain amount of that journey, you realize you're getting somewhere. I mean, don't we all want to feel the same thing, like realizing that we're getting somewhere? Whether we know how to explain it or not, whether we can explain it or not, but just like thinking and feeling that you're actually, you know a thing or two about a thing or two, and you have credentials. You have credentials because you know and you remember and you recall creating them yourself. And that every bit of it is a direct result of something you did, something you screwed together, something you brushed and applied, something you wrote. And so this acknowledgement is the tastiest, most delicious thing on planet Earth. And it doesn't matter where it's coming from yourself, from your next door neighbor, from a crowd, from friends, from strangers. You know, it just feels good because you remember that just that little bit ago when it wasn't there and there was nothing to discuss and nothing to look forward to and nothing to be able to relate to and nothing to show for and whatever, a lot of things like that. That would, I don't want to sound dramatic or anything, but then it's switchable and so fast. You can switch from that to triumphing in an instant. That's because even the command of you approaching the gesture of being uh, with command approaching the tool, and then you look at the canvas, and then you have enough paint, which is this sense of security. You have your material. You don't have to look for it anywhere; it's right there. And I thought that becoming aware of this simplicity, that in so much meaning is embedded within it, and it's quiet. It's actually resting most of the time, while it allows you to experience incredible experiences. And quickly enough you realize that you don't have to do the deciphering anymore. It's just like this situation favors you as much as saying, I'll decipher it for you and just serve it, eat ready, consume ready, consumption ready. And so you want to imagine, when I say you or we, I mean I, really. And you take that space that you think that it's dark. It's dark because it's dark, but you can see yourself, and nothing bright, but you can see yourself. You're aware of your existence because it is where the light is, in the center of darkness, of pitch dark, of black. And that in itself is incredible, unbelievable. What do we do with this? What do we do with because you want to be able to pretend that it's okay to accept all this, and in order to bond and make yourself familiar and familiarize your purpose and your desires and your energy and so much that speaks for who you are and presents you as who you are. So you want to be able to reside comfortably in the space where people will identify with fear and with morbidness and with somewhat of an abyss, with um, a mm, stuff that we're going through, that it's that you want to say to yourself, I don't want to take anything for granted. I don't want to be sorry later just because I undermined or belittled certain aspect of certain things that I should have followed my instincts because my instinct told me to do this or not to do that, and I did not ignore it. I just did something else that at the time I thought was the right thing to do. But finding yourself in that, like I spoke with Jason here at the beginning of the show. And by the way, I want to mention that it's the 15th day of June, Thursday afternoon, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi. And so, yeah, so um, with these kind of credentials, you know that you secured yourself enough space to think that if you have this supposedly 72 hours or 10 days or whatever, I like the 72 hours, it sounds like so official, so acceptable. Which you learn slowly but surely that 72 hours is friggin' tremendous amount of time. Because because you measured it, because you put it to the test, because this is the situation that you're going through. And you just want to say, he, you, she, they, we, us. You would like not to hear yourself say I. But that's okay. It's absolutely okay. As long as we can be aware of the fact that the process has some of its contents a part of who it is due to our creative endeavor that resulted in this material that's been used in the hands of others that found it to be fit to be a part of their presentation that happens to be artistic also by nature. Now, that's a long sentence, but it's a truthful one. And if only for that one needs to operate or to think or second guess himself or second guess the period or just contribute and add to the equation of sobriety and goodwill. Goodwill. I love this. I love goodwill. Sounds good. Goodwill as a gesture of goodwill. As a gesture of goodwill. I love. It. It sounds perfect. So it's as a gesture of goodwill. So you want to accommodate the surface. The surface doesn't really need your accommodations. Only because it's just like stronger and smarter, maybe 25 to 50 times smarter and stronger and more compatible with the. Let me just. Okay, sorry about that. See, these are the fractions of greatness when something rolls in to tell you that. What does it tell you? Tells you that I need my coffee right now. Let me just check one thing here. Okay, that's good actually. Let me just make myself more beautiful or good looking or something. Let me see. With whatever hair is left, I should maybe I should finish with the headphones on. Okay, so really to conclude and to say to ourselves, the don't be surprised when you see that the surface yields so many results and reacts so promptly, so immediately, in a timely fashion. And you realize that most of the materials, most of the ingredients that are fermenting across from you is your own direct doings that just gonna find the same stage and find it um, at its interest to maintain that in order to see it come together. See, because that union is crucial when you create, and they're ingredients that need to kind of unite with other ingredients which both you were responsible for its creations, and then it's like it's got to speak, it's got to be able to come up with the declaration, with a statement. Yeah, it's important. Statement is an important thing. And then you should just gladly and happily offer your point of view about you. Your point of view about you, your point of view is required. And you will do it so eloquently, and you will do it so happily and so willingly, and you will do it with a sense of urgency and a sense of that which is imperative to you after everything's said and done, and all the machines are turned off, and see you tomorrow, that you left with yourself, where you need to kind of change your tone and your style and your language, because yourself will not tolerate any BS. It knows everything. And you know that, and you say, okay, I don't fear you, but I'm not in the mood to get into any altercations with you, because I need this energy. I need this energy. Okay, you know what? I surrender. Okay, you win. And what's the fine? Can I proceed? I need to go now. And you do, and you go about your way. Now, you know how beautiful it sounds when you hear, you go about your way. That means, I'll tell you what it means. Go about your way. Go about that which is coming together to form who you are, and to help you maintain it without having your mind active constantly, in order to serve as a condition for its existence, or for its existence. Yes. And you want to be able to give the answers when they're needed, and to go through these kind of processes without finding yourself exhausted at the end of the line or something. I don't know if I should say it, end of the line. I don't even know what it means, the end of the line. But to find yourself that you can do that, you can accomplish this task, and you can still have a glass of wine with friggin' dinner, that would be nice. That you're casual, you're determined, you're focused, you're strong, you're talented, you're patient, you're open, you're inventive, you're inclusive, you're smart, you're spiritual, you are a genius, and you have a heart the size of, and guess what? You put all these things together, and you get what you already know you get. And being as exquisite as you are, being as exquisite as you are, being as exquisite as you are. Yes. And so this kind, if there was ever any kind of a doubt, any kind of something that lingers, that suggests whatever, it will fade into the thin air and dissipate. And you will find yourself having all the time and the space that you need, and you need to be definitely ready for it, and you need to be reminded that the probability for it to happen is greater than you think, even though it's next to zero, but it's greater than you think. And then it does happen, because you showed the process of your unique perseverance, or the aspect which is uniquely gathering its resources in the process of achieving that um, um, summarizing and statementizing sensations and feelings and thoughts, and and all the things that carries that it carries with it. So you're happy because mainly you know that you have more control. And I said I don't like necessarily want to talk about control as a positive thing, but control in the sense that I'm suggesting, meaning that you're protecting your investment. You saved it, you worked it out, you put it aside, you thought it out, you put you know what I mean. So you want to be able to enjoy it, you want to be able to pull through, to conclude, to cross the line, to have that kind of second layer and third layer, and to have the the promised aspect of it revealing itself to you, the promised aspect of it revealing itself to you, telling you, fear not, you already did the right thing a long time ago, and you are really happy, and rightfully so. And we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here today, May 15th, year 2023, and Thursday afternoon, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi. We still have the show, the group art show with David Slater, Michael McDowell, Steve Rahm, Chris LeCoeur, Jonathan Morse, Jody Gambino, and myself. And I'm getting ready for another opening of another show with Renee Dahl, with Seth Hello, and Steve Rahm, and some others. Will be a spectacular show, and that's going to come out in July. Keep up the good spirits, and hey, thank you for watching.